Ranjani Saigal is the executive director of the Ekal Vidyalaya Foundation, USA, a remarkable organization that has truly changed the lives of countless individuals. Ekal Vidyalaya runs over 100,000 schools in rural and tribal areas of India and Nepal, providing education to nearly 2.8 million children.
But it's more than just education, it's about empowerment and transformation.
These schools serve as epicenters, fostering lasting positive change within villages. Through innovative initiatives like Ekal on Wheels, Ranjani and her team have bridged the digital divide, bringing education and technology to the remotest corners. This work is crucial to uplift communities, break barriers, and offer hope. At TALtalks, we firmly believe that Ranjani, representing the Ekal Vidyalaya Foundation, has many captivating stories to share. Ranjani's perspective promises to inspire us all to champion the cause of quality education and understand its profound impact on the world's most pressing issues.
Let's welcome Ranjani Saigal.
Perfect. Such an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be among such inspiring individuals making a dramatic change. And what do I do with this organization is really to empower rural change makers. We are not giving them anything that is actually objects, but it is really to work with them to become the change that they want to see. The famous words of Mahatma Gandhi rings with us. So, a little bit about me. I think you heard. I am the executive director of Ekal USA. Ekal.org is where you find out more about our organization. We really, when I joined the organization 10 years ago as executive director, we were in about 50,000 villages, and I'm really, honored to say that we are a very scaled organization that goes out to 100,000 very remote rural villages, and we have expanded our services as well. And I'll talk about how we moved from what we started as a school initiative to now getting to integrated village development. I just wanted to say that, yes, this is my background. I had a lot of background in education technology, and really when my kids got off my payroll, I decided I wanted to do something else with my life. And actually, because of my involvement in the community, I run a little e-newsletter in my community. I'm a dance teacher, so automatically running fundraisers. I'm a priest, so I train things, and of course I'm a grandma. So all of this kind of led me to think that I need to invest in the future a little bit. And now that my kids were off my payroll, it gave me an opportunity to do this. I have to say that where I come from, I am the daughter of this individual who grew up in a family that was, of course, very poor. His parents were not literate. He actually went to a single teacher school in the village, and later on I'm proud to say he founded IIT Bombay, which is actually like the MIT of America, and he became the dean there. So today, if I am standing in front of you, it is thanks to that single teacher school that my father went to. Without that, I could not be here. So I am really motivated to join this organization because I can see that education makes a generational change. And all he had was that single teacher and that single teacher school. So what do we do at Ekal? We really work, as I said, to empower our rural change makers. We are bringing literacy, healthcare, and economic prosperity to over 100,000 very rural, remote villages. What are the challenges in India if you look at it, right? We have lots of people in India, and of that, about 840 million people live in remote rural villages. And actually in rural villages, I would say, there's a lot that lives in very remote rural villages, which is where we work. But what happens in these areas is there's a lot of divides. Technology, economic opportunity, skill divide, all that exists. Farmers get pushed out of agriculture. Climate change is a very big driver of that. And this really forces people to go into urban areas. We cannot put all of rural India into urban areas, and of course, digital literacy is low. As you know, today, if you're not digitally literate, that is a big challenge in your life. And that's the kind of problem that we said we need to make a difference. So really our villages, this is a picture I took in one of the villages that I visited. There are girls like this, still carrying water from distances to that place. So while I wouldn't say there is no access to education, health services, economic opportunities, the access, viable access, is still a challenge. There are not enough roads that go to these areas. So for me to send my little daughter who looks like that through the tribal, through the jungles to get to a, village school is sometimes a challenge for many of the parents. And that is what we were trying to address. So really, when they asked me what are the SDG goals we are working on, many of them. But the first one we started working on was education. And I will talk about the other goals as well that we are working on. So we were very motivated. Actually, the founder for this organization did his PhD in America and went back to India, worked at IIT Kanpur, very elite institution, and decided that, well, that's okay. He needs to bring education to very remote rural villages. And it was not easy because you cannot just transport an American school or an urban school into these villages. It doesn't work. So he came up with very unique ideas, and most importantly decided that we need to be sure to follow Swami Vivekananda's maxim, where he said if a child cannot come to school, the school must go to the child. And it doesn't matter where that village is, what are the tools that we use. As you can see, they're very creative about where the blackboard comes from. So it is not the tools, it is not the structure, but it is the teacher that makes the difference. And that is why our education model is very unique. It's called Ekal, which means single. It's a single teacher school in a single village that goes. So it's kind of like a little house on the prairie kind of school. And actually Swami Vivekananda came to America, and when he did, he was very moved to see those single teacher schools and said, we need to do something like that in India. And basically what we do is take a local youth from that general area and train them to be teachers. India is a very diverse country, and if you or I go into a rural village and start to teach, you may not connect well with the people there. Their language is different, their traditions are different, and thus, if we could just take the rural person and empower them to become teachers, then they connect well. It is their children, so the teacher becomes that change agent, and of course it empowers the teacher as well. So our own curriculum is, while we have a core curriculum, we have a very localized curriculum, and our schools are basically pre-primary schools, or I would say primary schools. It goes from K through 3, and we have 3 grades that all study together. There's a lot of peer teaching that goes on, and the kids come together, and we have what we call a 5-fold education. Reading, writing, arithmetic is of course very important, but we also emphasize health and hygiene. Some of these kids don't know much about it, and that becomes a very important part of what we teach them. Financial literacy, often the villager is a fool because he or she doesn't know how to manage money. Civics, they don't know they live in this country. They don't know the rights that are there to them. We are a democracy, lots of rights, lots of wonderful programs are available to the villagers, but they don't know about it. So we really empower them to use that as much. Finally, value education, very important. Following up on what you're saying, in the rural areas, drinking is a very big problem. There are other problems as well that exist. And in fact, I'll never forget, I went to a very rural area and asked, the teacher, why did you get motivated to join this organization? And he said, before we got there, there was a lot of negative energy that got there. Some guns came around. He said, when I saw you guys come in, I knew we don't need guns, we need pens. And so we are really, honored. And that's the kind of values to teach them what is right and what is wrong. So that's a very important part of what we do. So we are actually, the other thing is, because we don't invest in a school or infrastructure, our costs are very low. Most of our cost goes to pay the teacher and also to train the teacher, and with very little materials. So it's $1 a day to run a school for 30 children in a single village. Yes. And we have currently 2.8 million children who are going to schools. And of course, it's been there for 35 years. We didn't get there just yesterday. But we are really, the thing is that if you could scale like this, that means there is something about this model that makes a difference. So I was going to say, when I joined the organization, I used to work in EdTech at MIT. At that time, all Khan Academy, all these things were coming online. Today, everybody knows online education. At that time, nobody knew. We worked on developing a lot of things. And I thought, I could just take a tablet into the village. Voila, I'll make a big difference. It's been a challenge. It's not so easy. I've been working with the technology gods. But what I did see is As you see, I was very moved by that picture when I saw it, and that's how I joined the organization. I went to that same village with a laptop, and when people were a little bit pushing back, saying, should we have technology, because these are really underprivileged people. They live in very rural, remote villages. How can they handle this? And at that time, in 2013, there was not enough services, data services, technology services in the villages. So they were like, where are we going with this? But I'll tell you, that girl, when she took that laptop, I'll never forget what she said. She said, sister, you allowed me to touch the future. And I said, that's what we need to prepare these children for the future, not for the present, because when they grow up, are they ready for the world? And technology gods, they have really brought data into our very remote rural villages. India is leapfrogging ahead of everywhere else. There may not be roads, but there is data in the villages, and that has really made a huge difference for us. And that's where we came up with ideas of how to bring digital literacy. So one of the ways we did it is with a very unique program called Ekal on Wheels. We take a school bus, we fit it up with computers, and we take it to the doorstep of these villagers, and we are bringing digital literacy to them. And the nice thing is actually a lot of the front-end jobs, even in rural areas, require digital literacy. So if these people graduate, they can actually get income of about 15,000 rupees a month in their areas, which makes a huge difference. And to me, this, stories like this really inspired me, because this lady, took this course, and now she's running an e-banking service in her rural village. So first of all, we are bringing the service to the village, and second, she doesn't have to migrate. She's sitting at her home and making income, and being a good revenue center, that automatically, for the women especially, it becomes a very empowering thing. Thus, ideas like gender equality automatically comes into the village. In our schools also, now we have started bringing tablets so that we can bring better gamified learning and other things. A lot of experimentation is going on. We are very blessed to partner with IIT Madras, which is doing things for India. We cannot just transport some things from here there, but there's a lot of development happening there, and we are really pleased to see that it's making a big difference. And most importantly, the kids are getting to touch this device, to know that it is there. So again, preparing them for the future. The second area, once we had done our education, we said we cannot stop there, because again, these rural areas need multiple things. So the second area that we got involved in is medicine. We said we need to provide some health services. So originally what we did is we started with just providing information. So it was preventative, make sure that your area is clean, don't have water collect, because malaria and dengue and things like that will happen. But later on, again, technology, we were very honored to meet somebody from Johns Hopkins University who has created a platform, for telemedicine. And they said, can we work together? And there it is. We are now having this in many of our villages, where again, our program is very similar to our schools, where we take local women, we train them to be what we call sevikas, that is service providers, and they know, basic triage things. And as you can see, there's a mobile phone, there's a volunteer doctor at the back end, and I really would look forward to partnering with TAL hospitals to see what we can do there as well. And I wanted to say actually, before I go to the woman empowerment thing, is every week, I have a dashboard that I see that comes from all the telemedicine projects that we are looking at. And it's amazing to see by this intervention, how many women particularly we can really help, because they don't go to the hospitals early enough. There was a snake bite case a month ago, and this woman wouldn't have gone to the hospital but for the telemedicine. And you see this kind of how technology can make a difference, and it's really exciting to see that opportunity happen. Women are at the core of everything we do. We, as I said, most of our teachers are women, so we are talking about, in the 100,000 schools, about 89,000 very empowered women. I think that's good, to have these women in the villages. And in fact, people always look up to the teacher in the village. And so she becomes very, very great change agent in the village itself. Our Arogya Sevikas, who are the healthcare workers, are women as well. Now, the third thing we said we need to provide is skill training. Let us really focus on, in addition to doing health and education, to provide skills so that the skills come to the village while at the same time, giving a little income opportunity. So one of the first things we actually said we would do is tailoring. Somebody else talked about that too. It's a very, very powerful skill to provide, especially for the women. First of all, they get good clothes because it's hard to go out into the city far away to get your clothes. To have a tailor in the village itself is a very, very powerful thing. And these women, are able to earn 5,000 rupees sitting at home, which is a very important thing because they're not migrating anywhere. They're staying at home and having a good life. Third area for skill training that we work on is sustainable agriculture. Our areas these people have very small plots of land, and if we could teach them to use them better. One of the things is that if they can get rid of inorganic fertilizer and use organic that they can develop, the cost is very low. And they can then not only, right now what they do often is just do one crop, but if you can do multiple crops, teach them to grow maybe fruits and vegetables, and we tell them to eat that too. So they eat better, and at the same time they're getting incomes from it as well. So in fact, we call them those gardens, nutrition gardens or portion vatikas. So of course, this is something that we were very proud to get. The Gandhi Peace Prize. Gandhi is great, and to get such a peace prize for us, it's wonderful. But what I wanted to also show you is those are our teachers. We are very particular that we don't change their tradition. So you can see they wear their clothes. This is from Arunachal Pradesh. Whatever their clothes, whatever their things, we in fact tell them to be proud of their heritage. If they are rooted in their heritage, we can see the fruits at the end of the tree, right? And of course, many of our alumni, I'm always amazed to see how many want to join the police, And we have so many women who have joined the police force and other things. I guess that's what they see as front-end workers, but it's really impressive to see they wanted to join the army and the police force. So we've done all these multiple things, and now what we are doing is really putting it all together and doing what we call integrated village development. That is, we go into a set of 30 villages and provide all these services for about 5 years, and really in a very concentrated way, so that we can get out of there after 5 years. So 30 villages with about 1,000 people in each village. So we are talking about 30,000 villages that we go into, and it has been a really good program. I was going to say, if we can get all this done, we can actually impact about 100 million people living in our 100,000 villages, because we have the footprint in those villages. So it's up to us now to go ahead and do that. Again, all the work that we have done, as you can see, tremendous impact. So there are so many people. I mean, the numbers are really quite impressive, I would say, and we are really, looking to even expand, the reach even more from here. And of course, all this really happens is because we have a huge volunteer force. You cannot go into a village and just do your work. So we need to have at least 7 or 8 volunteers in each village. And all the work that we do in the rural areas is volunteer. So even the teachers, they are paid very little. It's not that they're paid a lot, because it's not about the money. It has to be that they want to do that. It has to be that they want to be the teacher for their child, for that community. So everything that we do is very volunteer based. In America as well, we have a large volunteer organization. We have 66 chapters. So really what we always like to say is that every dollar that is donated, and we have a very low cost thing to do. Like I said, $1 a day to run a school, and even our integrated village development is $2 per year per person, which is really small compared to the impact that we have. And we are able to do that is because we have 400,000 volunteers invested in what we do. And I think that investment is important, not just to keep costs low, but to transform and really do good work. It is the volunteerism that makes that work go forward. And of course, Ekal's ability to scale, I think Dr. Chituru was talking about that. Scale is very important. In India, when we have 100,000 rural remote villages, franchising, we have, I think, more Ekal schools than there is McDonald's, which is a lot to say about the scale and the model that we have. So just to say, what are we looking for? Of course, financial donations are always welcome, and I'd love to talk about that. But we are looking for volunteers. We are always looking for volunteers to help spread our message. And today I thank TAL for doing that. We have a youth chapter. We'd love for you to start a youth chapter, because the younger you are to get involved in these things, I think if the world could be connected, I think we have had some good youth chapters, and they do virtual internships. Go see the rural areas through Zoom, and that has been a really wonderful thing. And of course, finance is always useful. But most importantly, what we really want is all your love And it is that love that will really bring that, opportunities for those children, for those parents in those rural villages, and hopefully bring peace to the world. So thank you so much for the opportunity.